Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Country Clucker Farm. My name is Noelle Mosier. I'm a backyard chicken keeper, and I have been doing this for 11 years. Here is the flock. Hi, Smog. How are you doing? You bring your girls to the gate? Okay. Now I'm gonna come in here, but you girls, no. Hey, don't you peck my shoe. Come on, let's keep it all in the backyard. Alrighty. Well, today I am going to discuss something that people have been asking me about, and that is free-ranging your backyard flock. As you can tell, my flock is not penned up. They run around every day, just like this, as they're escorting me to the shed. Because the first thing I do when I come back here is to get them a treat. I tell you, getting through the flock of chickens to the shed should be an Olympic sport. Oh my goodness. You girls are just falling. You're just beside yourselves. Okay. Well, first I'm going to give the girls a little treat, and then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about free-ranging your backyard flock. Okay, I don't want to step on anybody. Alrighty. Well, what they want, what they're requesting, are you girls requesting? What they are requesting is a little bit of scratch here. Hi, are you girls ready for this? Can you handle this? Alrighty, ready? And they're off. Okay, one happy flock. I'm gonna give them one more cut. All right. Okay, that ought to keep them occupied. Alrighty, and now I'm gonna grab myself a seat, and we are going to discuss free-ranging backyard flocks. So, what is free-ranging your backyard flock, and what are the advantages and disadvantages to this? I'm gonna put my chair up and I'll be right with you guys. Okay, in case you're wondering what I'm struggling with over here, I've just put my hammock chair underneath the grape arbor here. Okay, free-ranging a backyard flock. Well, there's several ways that you can do that. One, if you have a large property, so say like several acres or whatnot, you can just literally let them run across, like run around in your pasture or on your farm there, and they will be perfectly happy with doing that. But you do not have to have a large property to free range your flock. If you're in the city or in the suburbs of sorts, you're probably going to have laws that dictate that you need to confine your flock to your property. So kind of like leash laws for dogs or whatnot, but yeah, you will have to have your flock confined to your property. Well, and that's all well and good. You know, it's probably safer for them to be confined to your property because then it reduces predators and other things that can happen to chickens. Hi, we have a visitor. This is Ruto. She's my little lap chicken. And so I live in the country and I do have a large property, but I pretty much confine my flock to the backyard. So if you're going to free range your flock, one of the things, like if you don't live in the country or have like a really, really large property, Goodness gracious. What you want to do is you want to probably confine them to an area where they can be safe. So, for example, my backyard. I have a large backyard, but I also have it fenced in by a wood privacy fence, and this surrounds my backyard property, just my backyard. And this is the area that we have dedicated for the chickens to free range. So just like you would free range your flock in the country, my chickens have full access to basically anything that they want back here. So as you see right now, the behavior of them pecking the ground for bugs, and in this case, a little bit of cracked corn. They are also confined in an area to where their housing is. So when you confine them to an area that surrounds their coops or keeps them close to basically home base, that is a hedge of protection, because they don't wander too far from their home, and should there be a hawk scare, or in our case living in East Tennessee, a freak thunderstorm like they had this afternoon, they can very quickly find shelter. And your hens, especially if you want to collect the eggs, having them close to their coops and with access to nesting boxes will also make egg collecting probably a little bit of an easier task for you. But also keeping them confined to your property, especially if your chickens serve more so the function of pets versus production livestock, you pretty much increase their lifespan. Keeping them, close to home, keeping them, in a safe and protected environment reduces predators, for one. So my 6-foot wood privacy fence, and of course on the outside of my fence, there is a large field, but the fence pretty much provides a barrier. So anything like a fox, a dog, a coon, so on and so forth would first have to get past the barrier in order to access my chickens. So it gives a hedge of protection for your flock as well, but also keeps them contained, keeps your flock from wandering off, getting lost. Other ways that you can free range your flock in your backyard is, like, if you live like in the city or something, you can just have a really large outdoor run. So if you have a situation where you don't necessarily want to keep them cooped up in their coop, but you also want to give them a little bit more room to roam, but you don't want them to have too much access to the rest of your property, or if you have a small property, your neighbor's property, just a large fenced in outdoor run can serve the purpose very well. What are some of the advantages of free ranging your flock? Well, I guess the biggest advantage, as you can see right here demonstrated by my flock, is the ability for them to do some of their natural behaviors. So foraging. Chickens have an innate instinct for foraging. So hens will walk around, they will peck in the grass for bugs or weeds or anything else that they deem to be delectable. You're also going to have a happier flock. So if your flock isn't pinned in, you're going to have a happier flock because they're going to be entertained. So one thing that happens when you have your chickens cooped up is a lot of times boredom can set in. And when your flock is bored because they're in their pen, there's some destructive behaviors that can develop out of that, such as pecking. They'll be pecking each other because they're bored out of their mind. You can also have some dysfunctional behaviors such as bullying, and just basically just an all-out just a failure to thrive because they're not able to do a lot of their natural behaviors. But on the contrary to that, if you provide entertainment, you provide enrichment through, little games or a flock block, or if you can, the other thing you can do is, hang some cabbage or some lettuce in your pen. The girls will absolutely love pecking at that, and the greens are also very good for egg production, and of course their vitamins and their egg laying. So you can do some things to keep your flock entertained, but you have to be deliberate. There's a lot more deliberation that is involved on your part in providing that that enrichment. But if they're allowed to free range, even if it is just in a backyard like mine, you can see that through their behavior, they're very well entertained. Not only are they entertained by each other, but they are also entertained by scratching at the ground, pecking for bugs, hunting, foraging. And in addition, if you have roosters, if you have more than one rooster, or you want to have roosters, because like me, you love roosters, free ranging your flock is kind of essential. Because when you free range your flock and you have multiple roosters in your flock, the boys have a chance to, spread out, which will also reduce a lot of your fighting behaviors in roosters and a lot of your territorial behavior in roosters. And you can have multiple roosters without experiencing a lot of the negative consequences, such as injury and death due to roosters that are competing for either hens or, in some cases, just space. As far as eggs are concerned, I do find that when my girls are allowed to free range and do their natural activities, like little Miss Deaky here, she is pecking at the ground. They love to eat clover. Yes, I'm talking about you, and you know it, don't you? Oh, that is so funny. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So they're able to do these natural activities, and eating the grass and the bugs will yield eggs that taste better. When chickens are allowed access to their natural diet and their natural behavior, the eggs that they produce are much better. So a chicken or a hen that has had ample access to greens will have eggs that are very, the yolks are dark orange, dark yellow, orange to dark orange. And the eggs, the quality of the egg is just a whole lot better. The only thing you have to watch out is if you free range your flock in a backyard like this, is to make sure that anything that you put on the ground is safe for your chickens. So for example, I have a lot of vegetables back here, gardens back here, and things that I grow back here. I do not use insecticides. I make sure that anything that I spray back here, if it is for bugs, is organic, that it is safe for chickens. But you will also find, in addition, if you have a lot of vegetation that you're growing, is your chickens will pretty much be your exterminating crew for you. So I have found that as I free range my chickens when I have a garden out, that they will patrol the garden, and they will eat a lot of the bugs off the garden. So those little cabbage worms or those large green tomato worms that often plague tomato plants, my chickens absolutely love to eat. So they will pretty much patrol your gardens and basically work as your theropod extermination crew, which also has the benefit of allowing you to grow vegetables in a more of an organic state, using their natural abilities to assist you in your endeavor of gardening. So not only do they get a really good meal, but you reap the benefit of not even needing to have anything like insecticides, or even just reduce your chores in the garden by their tilling. So as a hen, as she's looking for things to eat, she's going to scratch at the ground, just like little Salem is doing here. So she's going to peck a little bit, and then she's going to scratch the ground. And when she does that in your garden, as she's digging for worms or grubs, she will also, by default, till your soil. So there's a lot of benefits to having your chickens roam in your backyard. The main disadvantages, like I have already touched on, would be basically predators. So if you have a large property and you let your chickens just roam free, they're a little bit more accessible to predators. You also have the possibility that one of your hens could get lost, go missing. And if your chickens serve more of a pet status like my girls do, I would be very uncomfortable just turning my hens loose and just letting them go wherever. Even though I live in the country, I still want to have them contained in an area for their safety. So those are some positives and some negatives. Now I free range my flock every day, all day. The only times I do not free range my flock are in the instances of the expectation of severe weather. So if we're expecting either snow or ice, or we are expecting frigid temperatures, or we are expecting inclement weather in the form of, say, thunderstorms, especially storms that have hail and high winds during the spring and summer, I will keep them pinned in on those days, because I have found, ironically enough, that on some of the windy days, like when we have really serious winds, a couple of my girls can actually get hurled over the fence. So there was one instance that I was out here with my girls, and I was kind of picking up the yard, you know, securing all your loose items, you know, before the storm comes. And I had noticed one of my Polishes fly over the fence, and I was just like, okay. Well, what had happened was she had spread her wings to, I guess, stretched her wings or something like that, and the gust of wind just got under her wings and lifted her over the fence. So even though chickens are generally land-based birds, they do have wings, they do have flight feathers, and if a gust of wind is strong enough, you know, and she's stretching her wings or whatever, it is possible to have them hurled over the fence. So in that case, I was able to go outside the fence and catch her. She was just kind of dazed and confused at how she even arrived at this position. So that really wasn't an issue as far as getting her. But so basically from that experience, pretty much if we have inclement weather or stormy weather coming in, I will keep my girls basically confined to their coops and their pens just for that day, to keep them safe. And then, of course, if there's also hail and stuff, their pens are covered, and that'll also protect them from any injuries from falling hail. And the only other time that I will lock up my birds is if there is a threat of bird flu. So I know other people have probably you know, heard in the news, or when you're watching the news about, you know, the bird flu as it circulates in the early spring. Typically, I don't get too concerned about that, but once it starts entering my state and getting a little bit closer to my property, I will put my girls on lockdown. This basically removes any contact that they could have with wild birds. It's not just the waterfowl that can give your chickens bird flu, just songbirds that visit your backyard could be vectors. So when there's a high probability of bird flu near my area, I will then lock up my girls for sometimes, I think the longest time I've actually had to have them locked up for a bird flu scare is probably a couple months. And in that instance, I do have to provide enrichment in order to keep them from getting bored and and engaging in destructive flock behavior such as pecking and bullying in order to appease their boredom. So, you know, I'll make them a flock block for them to peck at. I'll bring them out some greens and hang them up for them to peck at. I'll even put a sandbox in there with some sand and some peat moss so that way they can do their natural behaviors such as dust bathing. And of course, I'll scatter some scratch in their feet or something just kind of on the floor of the pen just to kind of occupy their little minds as we're weathering this bird flu scare. So I really only had to do that one time that I can remember in the 11 years that I've had chickens, where I've literally had to lock up my girls for an extended amount of time due to the bird flu. And of course, they survived. They weren't thrilled, but they weathered through. So yeah, so just free ranging your backyard flock. If just provide the right conditions, such as a fenced in roaming area. So in my case, I just have the fenced in, my fenced in backyard. So we just give them the run of the entire backyard area. So they have plenty of things to do. They're pretty busy during the growing season of taking care of my plants and eating the bugs. And they have their coops and their food source nearby. Something I will do during the summertime is I will make sure that I have watering stations throughout the yard. So I have, let's see, I've got several just waterers. I just use these shepherd hooks here, and I just hang a waterer from them. And I have several of these watering stations kind of throughout the yard to basically ensure that my flock has very easy access to water, especially when it starts getting really hot and humid out. It does not take a chicken very long to dehydrate in some of the hot and humid conditions that we can get in my area here in East Tennessee. So so that would be one word of advice. If you have a larger area, kind of like mine here, having watering stations kind of throughout the yard is very beneficial to your flock, because then they can very easily find water when needed. Trying to think what else. Well, I guess as far as free ranging your flock, I think I've covered everything. So, oh, and something else you can do is just provide access to cover. So if you've got like shrubs like butterfly bushes, hydrangeas work great. Something you can do is just provide, you know, shrubs kind of throughout the yard. So if the flock encounters a hawk scare or something, they can very easily and very quickly find cover. So throughout my yard, I have some large vegetation that can provide them a sense of security when a hawk scare or some kind of raptor or whatever looks to have a chicken takeout dinner, that won't happen. Also, I have this shed here that the girls will oftentimes duck underneath when it starts to rain. Like if they get caught out in a rainstorm, or there is a predator scare such as a hawk or something, they can very easily find cover and safety. So I hope this kind of helps. I've had a lot of questions about free ranging and how to free range, and the benefits and the cons of that, and just some things to keep in mind in order to make sure or ensure that your flock has the most successful free ranging experience. Yes, my boys are very noisy. So, and they're also a lot of entertainment. So as you free range your flock, they're kind of fun to watch, and just their antics and their relationships to each other. It can be kind of entertaining. Hi, Smog. So, I guess I could do a rundown of my breeds because I get a lot of questions about what I have here. So Smog here, this guy here, he is a Silver Lace Wyandotte rooster. He is my biggest rooster. He is a big boy, but I promise you, he is a gentle giant. This little brown girl right here, this is an Americana. I have several of her. I've got a couple. Okay, so that sound you just heard right now, what my roosters were doing, that throaty, growly sound. Yes, we had a large bird fly over. It was a turkey buzzard. And as that bird flew over, the roosters saw that, and they did not like that. So that sound that you just heard, that grunty, growly, kind of throaty sound, that was my roosters keeping an eye to the sky and letting the ladies know that there's something in the area that should not be. So I don't normally catch that on camera, so that was pretty cool to catch. Okay, back to the roster. Okay, so I also have Australorps. So this little black girl here, this is Morticia, and this is her buddy Lucretia. So these are black Australorps. The one that just entered the frame here, the buff. This is a buff lace Polish. This is a golden lace Polish. Let's see, over here on my silkies, I have a buff, 2 blacks. This is Pantophobia. He's a white crested Polish rooster. Let's see, we have Sec over here. He is a barnyard hatch, so he is a cross between a Cochin and a Silkie. Let's see, who else do we have? I need to find a Silver Lake Wyandotte hen. So you've seen Smog here, so his counterparts are, there we go, they're over here. So right here, this is Penelope. She is a Silver Lace Wyandotte hen. I have 2 more of these ladies around here, but that's a Silver Lace Wyandotte hen. Over here, this is Henwarts. There's a white crested Polish rooster. Here's a Silver Lace Polish hen. This is Phi. This is Link. Yeah, Silver Lace Polish rooster. Oh, let's see. Who else do we have? Let's see. I think I have, yeah, that's all my breeds. So I have a mixed breed flock. And everybody kind of, as you witnessed, just kind of mingles out here during the day. All my boys get along for the most part. I don't really have any issues with my roosters as far as fighting. Every now and again, I might have a scuffle. But for the most part, they are very cordial, especially when they have free-ranging experience where there's plenty of room for everybody to go around. The boys can kind of spread out, and they don't really have any issues with competition or fighting for spates. And of course, I've got plenty of hens to go around. So I think that is about it. So if anybody has any questions about free ranging or something that I didn't touch on that you would like me to touch on a little bit more or go a little bit more in depth on, you know to find me in the comments. You can also find me on my blog. I will leave that link. And thecountryclucker.blog is where you can find me. And of course, you can access my Facebook page. And of course, you can leave comments or email me because I have all those links on my blog. So I guess for right now, the girls and I are going to bid you adieu. And we'll catch you next time.